Hi YouTube, it's Kathy, and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up from October 29th through November 3rd. This week I read 3 books, I watched 2 shows, I watched 5 movies, and I listened to 1 book. The first 2 books that I read this week I'm going to talk about together because they are both books in the same middle grade graphic novel series. That's Garlic and the Vampire and Garlic and the Witch. This is about our titular character, Garlic, who is in fact anthropomorphized Garlic. Through the use of magic, a witch has made this Garlic into basically a little helper in the garden, so Garlic actually harvests garlic that is not sentient in any way. And then she sells that garlic at market. She also has little friends such as celery and carrot and all these other different garden helpers. One day they realize there's smoke coming from this castle on the hill and it's a little bit scary, and they're wondering if maybe a vampire has moved into it and somebody has to go investigate, and who better than Garlic. These books are incredibly adorable. I really enjoyed the art style. Everything is just so cute and I really want more from this author. Because there's spoilers for the second book and the first book, I'm not going to tell you about the second book, but it's also really, really cute and I really enjoyed that story as well. As for the other book that I read this week, let me just set the scene for you. I've been waiting to read this book the day after Halloween for ages. I ordered it ages ago specifically so I could read it in the bathtub as close to Halloween as possible, and I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm in the bath, I'm drinking my scotch, it's getting very, very creepy at parts. I'm kind of going, what's gonna happen with this story? And then all of a sudden I'm about 100 pages in and I go, wait, who published this? And much to my shock and horror, it was St. Martin's Press, so I can't tell you anything about it, even though it's probably going to be my favorite book I read this month. If you're not currently aware, there is a boycott for Wednesday Books as well as St. Martin's Press, who is the step above Wednesday Books, if you will, and I will not be reviewing any of their titles or showing them on my channel until such a time that they actually acknowledge the wrongdoing of one of their employees. If you need more information, that will be down in the description below. On to the shows I watched this week. The first one is that I finished the second half of the first season of the Big Door Prize. I still don't know why this show has that title, but maybe that will become apparent near the end of the series. I know that we are getting at least another season that should be coming out in the middle of next year. This is about a small town where a machine shows up one day that will actually tell you your life potential, and people are going nuts over it. People are changing their whole careers, they're leaving marriages, they're changing things up completely because of whatever this machine has told them. It is definitely an interesting story and I would love to know where it's going. The other show I watched this week is about the first 5 episodes of a show called Taskmaster. This is a show where there is a man who has made 5 comedians do random tasks and then he grades them based on those tasks and there's prizes awarded. Generally, all of the participants have done these tasks at separate times, so nobody knows how anybody did on any of these tasks. It's all been recorded and then we're basically watching how they did, and some of them are pretty ridiculous. It's also really interesting to see how certain people try to get around the different challenges. Like for each challenge you're given a very specific set of rules for it, usually very, very bare bones rules, and it's interesting to see how people interpret that and try to get around things. I really enjoy watching this show. It's a lot of fun. As for the movies we watched this week, we did a rewatch of A Quiet Place so that I could see for the first time A Quiet Place 2, which takes place about 5 minutes after the first one, and it's such an interesting place to pick up. And then you also see some backstory to what was going on before all of the things in the first movie happened, and you get to meet some other characters based on that. These movies are truly excellent, and if you haven't experienced them yet, I highly suggest doing so. There is a little bit of jump scare, but for the most part, people usually listen for the violins to know when jump scares are coming, but there's so little sound used in these movies, for obvious reasons once you start watching them, that the jump scares are actually really effective and not used all the time, which is something Chad really appreciates because he hates jump scares, but also when the one jump scare happens, it definitely gets him because there's no violins. And then he flails and we all laugh at him and it's a wonderful time. Next we rewatched Dracula Dead and Loving It, which is a spoof based on Dracula, and my goodness, the guy that plays Renfield in this, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's always a ridiculous character and I always appreciate him in everything I see him in. Peter MacNicol, there we go. You might also know him from Ally McBeal, you might also know him from Numbers. He's always just wonderful in every role he does. We also watched Queen of the Damned, which I had never actually seen before, and it was, you know, decent. It was a vampire movie, that's fine. I had no idea that it was the next next book, I think, after Interview with a Vampire, which I feel like I read at least one of those books in my youth, because it seems like the type of thing I would read, but however, my youth was so many years ago that I cannot remember. Because we'd never heard of it before and Megan randomly found out it existed, we also watched Transylvania 65000. We were very confused about this title because this movie is from 1985, which predates most of our births in this household, and it took until the end of the movie, when we were watching the credits and saw the music credits go by, that we understood that Pennsylvania 65000 was in fact a song, and that's what they were riffing on. This is a ridiculous, ridiculous movie starring Jeff Goldblum, Ed Begley Jr., a bunch of other tall people, and then Gina Davis is also in this, which is why we were interested in watching this. This is about these two reporters at a tabloid, and their boss basically says, hey, I'm sending you to Transylvania, get me a really juicy story, and they're like, this is stupid, I don't think we should really do this, or at least one of them is. The other one is his son is like, we're gonna do what dad says. And they go and try to find a tabloid type story, and it gets really ridiculous. This is mostly made because some of these actors have worked together before, and I feel like it was also trying to rip off other things. Like, there are two characters that I definitely feel like are Riff Raff and Magenta from Rocky Horror Picture Show, but we get to see a bunch of them for no apparent reason, and that was a little bit weird. I'm not gonna say it's a great movie, but if you want to see something weird and ridiculous set in Transylvania but actually shot in Yugoslavia, here you go. We were actually really hoping they shot it in Transylvania because we've been there and we could be like, hey, that's what it looked like back in the 80s, but no, it was actually shot in Yugoslavia. The book that I listened to this week is To Shape a Dragon's Breath. This is the start of an indigenous fantasy series where this girl is just living on her island with her friends and her family and her community, and all of a sudden one day sees a dragon. They haven't seen dragons on their islands for about 200 years after something called the Great Dying, so when she goes out the next day to kind of just sit and think about this dragon, she finds a dragon egg. Once it hatches, it chooses her to be its guardian. However, the English society has really strict rules about literally everything, including who's allowed to have dragons, so she ends up having to go to a boarding school for people who are learning to be dragon riders. This pretty much means she's a fish out of water because she's never really left her island before, besides to go to a couple other smaller islands around her place, and she has to live in English society, and they're not great people. There's a lot of our society is civilized and you come from a backward society and all of that type of racism, and there's so much of it because of the time frame this is set in. But despite all these people being terrible racists, she really wants to learn how to shape her dragon's breath, which is a whole big interesting part of the lore of this, and I just really enjoyed everything to do with her learning all of these things and learning these things based on old customs from her own community. If you're looking for a dragon book, you're honestly not going to find much that's better than this. I really enjoyed this. I cannot wait for the sequel to come out because I want to know what's going to happen with these characters. That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't feel like leaving a comment but want to make sure that I know you were here, just leave me an emoji or a smiley face if you happen to be on your keyboard. Some people have asked if there's a way to financially support this channel, so I set up a Ko-fi account, which is a digital tipping service. The link for that, as always, is down below. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!